The stage was my everything. I was on the brink of living my dream, ready to shine in the most important competition of my life. But in a single, brutal moment, it all turned into a nightmare. My perfect walk became a public fall, and my dream became a national humiliation. The world laughed at me, but one man, he saw something else. He saw the fire in my eyes, the resilience in my soul. I didn't know it then, but my downfall was just the beginning of our story. A story of revenge, a return to fame, and an unexpected love that healed a wounded heart. I was a contender, a name on the rise. At 23, I had dedicated my entire life to modeling. It wasn't just a job, it was my escape. From a young age, I was told I was too tall, too skinny, too quiet. But on the runway, my body became a canvas, and my walk became a statement. The Model of the Year competition was my shot at redemption, my chance to prove to myself and to the world that I was worthy. I had trained for months, perfecting every step, every pose, every glance. The final round was here. The air was thick with the scent of perfume and the silent tension of 1,000 expectations. My heart was pounding, a drumbeat of pure adrenaline. This was it. My rival, Hyeri, was the very definition of a model princess. She was beautiful in a conventional way, but there was a coldness in her eyes that never reached her practiced smile. She was the one to beat, the one with connections and a family name that opened doors. She had watched me with a certain contempt throughout the competition, a silent warning that my talent was a threat to her privilege. But I didn't care. I believed in merit. I believed in hard work, and I believed that my moment had finally come. The lights were blinding, a cascade of white-hot fire illuminating the stage. My music started, a bold and confident track. I took a deep breath and began my walk. This was the moment I had dreamt of my entire life. My steps were precise, my posture perfect. I was in my element, a dancer in a world of static poses. But as I reached the end of the runway, something was wrong. My heel, which I had checked meticulously just minutes before, felt loose. A strange, sharp pain shot through my ankle. I stumbled, trying to regain my balance, but it was too late. I fell. The sound of my fall echoed in the silent hall, a brutal crash in the middle of a perfect moment. I looked down and saw my beautiful dress, torn at the seams, a long rip running from the hem to my knee. I saw the stunned faces of the judges and the condescending smirk on Hyeri's face in the wings. The judges' words were a cruel hammer blow. Unprofessional, unprepared, a disgrace. But the worst part was not their judgment. It was the audience's laughter. They didn't see a girl with a broken ankle and a shattered dream. They saw a clown, a failure. I wanted to disappear, to vanish into thin air. A sense of overwhelming humiliation washed over me, a hot tide of shame. As I was helped off the stage, I saw a face among the judges, a man with a dark jacket and a camera hanging around his neck. His expression was not one of mockery, but of genuine pity. It was a look of understanding that made the humiliation even worse. I didn't want his pity. I wanted his respect. I wanted to rewind time, to erase this horrible moment from my life. But it was impossible. My dream was dead. My career was over before it even began, and my humiliation was broadcast for the whole country to see. The incident, as the industry called it, became a viral sensation. Clips of my fall were everywhere. Memes were made, articles were written, all mocking the girl who tried to be a star and ended up a laughingstock. My phone wouldn't stop ringing with calls from my agency, and they weren't calls of support. They were calls of dismissal. I was a liability, bad publicity. The beautiful, promising world of modeling had spit me out like a bitter seed. I tried to get other jobs. I sent my portfolio to small-time agencies, to local boutiques, to anyone who would listen. But my resume was forever marked by the words, Model of the Year finalist. Everyone knew what that meant. They knew I was the girl who fell. The rejections were polite but firm. "We'll keep you in mind, Yuna. We don't think you're the right fit for our brand right now." The subtext was always the same. You are a public failure. I hit rock bottom. I had no money, no job, and no hope. My family, while supportive, couldn't understand the depth of my despair. They told me to get a normal job, to forget my dreams. But how could I forget? My humiliation was a living thing inside me, a constant reminder of everything I had lost. I had to pay my bills, so I took a job as a barista in a small, quiet coffee shop far from the fashionable streets of Gangnam. It was a simple, repetitive job, a world away from the bright lights and glamour. I served coffee, wiped down tables, and tried my best to be invisible. I wore oversized hoodies and a baseball cap pulled low, hoping no one would recognize me. My once confident walk was now a quiet shuffle. I had to bury the fire inside me. One day, on a routine coffee run, a customer left his designer bag behind. I ran after him, my heart pounding with a familiar anxiety. He turned around, and my world stopped. It was him, the man from the judges' panel. He had a serious, intense face, but his eyes held a strange kindness. He didn't seem to recognize me. He thanked me for the bag, his voice a low, melodic rumble. I just nodded, turning away quickly, my face burning. I didn't want him to remember me. I didn't want him to see the girl who had fallen so far, but he didn't forget me. He started coming to the coffee shop every day. He would sit in a corner, sketching in a small notebook while sipping his iced Americano. He never said my name, never brought up the past. He just watched me. I felt his eyes on me, not with pity, but with a strange curiosity. I tried to ignore him, but I couldn't. His presence was a quiet comfort, a constant that I had not had in a long time. I found myself looking for him, my heart doing a little flip every time he walked through the door. I had no idea what he wanted, but I was so starved for a connection that I didn't care. His silence spoke a language that no one else understood. It was the language of someone who saw me, truly saw me, for the person I was today, and not for the failure I was in the past. His persistence was both unnerving and deeply flattering. He was a man of few words, but his presence was a constant question. One afternoon, as I was closing up, he finally spoke. "You have a natural elegance," he said, his voice soft. "Even when you're wiping down tables. You're a model, aren't you?" My blood ran cold. The past I had tried so hard to bury had just been unburied by the one person I had hoped would never recognize me. "Not anymore," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I'm a barista now. My modeling days are over." He just nodded, but his eyes, a deep, knowing brown, didn't waver. "My name is Minjun," he said, extending a hand. "I'm a photographer. I'm working on a personal project, and I need a model, a non-professional one, someone with raw emotion and a story in their eyes. You would be perfect." I felt a surge of rage, a hot, angry tide that had been simmering inside me for months. "Perfect?" I scoffed, pulling my hand back. "You were there. You saw me fall. You saw them laugh. You saw my career die on that stage. You think this is a joke? You think you can just come here and offer me a job like it's a second chance? I'm done with that world. It's a cruel, superficial place that chews people up and spits them out." My voice was louder now, my anger and frustration spilling out in a torrent. "I'm not a clown for you to photograph. I'm not a project. I'm a person, and I'm not going back there." I turned and ran, leaving him standing there, a silent statue in the empty coffee shop. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought he would get the message and leave me alone. But the next day, he was back, sitting in his usual corner. He didn't bring up the conversation. He just sat there sketching, his presence a quiet, determined force. He saw me as more than my failure. He saw my pain, my anger, my resilience. And he didn't pity me. He respected me. He respected my anger. He respected my decision to leave that world behind. I started to see him differently. He wasn't a cruel reminder of my past. He was a silent testament to my present. He was the one person who saw my brokenness and still saw beauty in it. He didn't see a failed model. He saw a fighter. And in that, he made me feel something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Minjun's persistence was a strange and beautiful thing. He didn't try to change my mind. He didn't bring up modeling again. He simply showed up. He brought me books on art and philosophy. We talked about everything but the fashion world. He told me about his passion for capturing the truth behind a person's eyes, the stories etched on their faces. I, in turn, found myself opening up to him. I told him about my life before the fall, my dreams, my family's expectations. I told him about the pressure, the loneliness, the constant feeling of being judged. He listened with a patience I had never experienced. He didn't interrupt. He didn't judge. He just listened. He saw the person beneath the brokenness. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly seen. Our friendship blossomed in the quiet intimacy of the coffee shop. He showed me his art, and I was stunned. His photos weren't just images, they were emotions. He captured the soul of a person, not just their physical appearance. He showed me a series he did on people who had overcome great tragedies. Their faces were not sad, but triumphant. Their eyes held a quiet strength, a wisdom earned through suffering. He showed me that beauty was not a symmetrical face or a perfect body. It was resilience. It was courage. It was a story told through the eyes. He saw the world in a way I had never seen before. He saw the beauty in broken things. And in that, he made me feel beautiful again. I finally agreed to be his model. I wasn't doing it for a comeback. I was doing it for him. I was doing it for myself. The photo shoot was a world away from the sterile, high-pressure environments of my past. We went to an old, abandoned warehouse, its windows boarded up and its walls peeling. The only light was a single ray of sun filtering through a crack in the ceiling. He didn't give me any instructions. He just told me to be myself, to move, to breathe, to feel. He captured my vulnerability, my sadness, and my quiet strength. He captured the story of a girl who had lost everything and was now finding herself again. It wasn't about the poses, it was about the emotions. He made me feel powerful, not because of my looks, but because of my story. As we worked, the lines between model and photographer blurred. We laughed, we talked, We shared our deepest fears and desires. We were two souls, meeting in the quiet of a forgotten warehouse. I saw the passion in his eyes, a fire that burned brighter than any studio light. I saw the kindness in his hands, the way he held his camera as if it were a precious thing. He saw the real me, the person behind the mask of professionalism and the mask of failure. And in his eyes, I was not a failure. I was a work of art. Minjun's personal project, a photo series called Resilience, was unveiled at a small art gallery. The fashion world, which had forgotten me, was suddenly captivated. The photos, stripped of the glamour and the polish of commercial modeling, were raw, emotional, and stunning. My face was on every magazine, but not as a model. I was hailed as a muse, a symbol of hope and strength. The critics raved about Minjun's work, calling him a genius for capturing a beauty that was not on the surface. They called the series a masterpiece, and I, the girl who was once a public humiliation, was the face of this masterpiece. Offers started pouring in, from top agencies, from luxury brands, from designers who had once turned their backs on me. They all wanted the girl from the photo series. They all wanted the face of resilience. My comeback was not just a comeback. It was a revolution. I was not just a model. I was a symbol. I had a platform, and I was going to use it. I accepted an offer from a top luxury brand on one condition: Minjun had to be the photographer. The brand agreed, and our partnership became a formidable force. We were the talk of the industry. We were the dream team. We were the ones who dared to change the definition of beauty. Hyeri was furious. She was a top model, but she was just a pretty face. She didn't have a story. She didn't have a soul. And now I, the girl she had humiliated, was the one on the covers of magazines, the one who was hailed as a genius. She couldn't stand it. She tried to sabotage me again, spreading rumors that I was just a one-hit wonder, that I was only popular because of Minjun. But this time, I wasn't alone. This time, I had Minjun by my side. We were at a major fashion show and the lights were shining on me. I was wearing a beautiful dress and I was ready to walk. I saw Hyeri in the crowd, her face a mask of fake smiles and quiet rage. I knew what she was capable of. I knew she would try to bring me down again. But I wasn't the girl from before. I was stronger now. I had a purpose. I had a mission. And I had a love that made me invincible. I was no longer afraid of her. I was no longer afraid of the industry. I was no longer afraid of anything. I was Yuna, and I was here to stay. The new campaign, a collaboration between a major luxury brand, Minjun, and me, was a massive success. It was not just an ad, it was a movement. The photos were raw, emotional, and real. They were a testament to my story, my strength, and my resilience. The public loved it. They loved the truth behind the glamour. And in the midst of this success, our love for each other deepened. We were inseparable. We were a team. We were two people who had found solace in each other's pain and had built a future on a foundation of trust and love. But Hyeri wasn't done yet. She used her family's connections and her influence to try and bring us down. She spread rumors that Minjun and I were a couple, which was a breach of contract for me, and that I was using him to get ahead. She tried to expose our relationship, to make it a scandal. But this time, the public didn't believe her. They saw our love as genuine, as real. They saw our story as a fairy tale, and they wanted it to have a happy ending. The final confrontation was at a televised press conference. Minjun and I were there to talk about the campaign, but the questions were not about the campaign. They were about us, about our relationship, about the rumors, about my past. I looked at Minjun, and he gave me a look of encouragement. He was ready to fight, and I was ready to fight with him. I took the microphone. "I'm not a model, and I'm not a symbol," I said, my voice steady. "I'm a human being. I was humiliated on a stage, and I was judged by the world. But one man, he saw something else. He saw a person, not a failure. He saw a story, not a tragedy. Minjun, he saved me. He gave me hope. He gave me strength. He gave me my life back." I looked at him, and the tears came. He's not just a photographer. He's my partner. He's my rock. He's my love. I'm not using him. I'm loving him. My confession was final. The room was silent. Minjun took the microphone. "I'm not just a photographer," he said, his voice a low rumble. "I'm an artist, and my art is about capturing the truth. And the truth is, I love this woman. I loved her the moment I saw her fall. She's the strongest woman I know. She's the most beautiful person I know. I'm not a hero. She is. And I'm just lucky enough to be with her." And with that, he leaned in and kissed me. The kiss was not just a kiss. It was a declaration. It was our happily ever after. Our public declaration of love was the most talked about event in the fashion world. Our love story became a national sensation. We were the power couple, the it couple, the ones who proved that love can conquer all. But our life was not perfect. We faced new challenges. My family, while proud of my success, was worried about the public scrutiny. Minjun's family, who were traditional successful and influential, didn't approve of his relationship with a scandalous woman. We were under constant pressure, but we had each other, and that was all that mattered. We decided to step back from the high-pressure world of commercial fashion. Min-jun, who had always valued art over commerce, decided to open his own art gallery. It was a small independent gallery, but it was his dream. He showcased his personal work and the work of other artists who used photography to tell stories. I, in turn, decided to open my own modeling academy. I wanted to teach young girls about the truth of the industry, about the importance of inner beauty, about resilience, and about self-worth. I wanted to give them the tools to succeed, not just as models, but as people. I wanted to make sure they didn't have to go through what I had gone through. Our life was a beautiful chaos. We were not perfect, but we were happy. We were not the most famous couple in the world, but we were the most in love. We were not living in a perfect fairy tale, but we were living in a real one that we had built with our own hands, with our own hearts. The final piece of our story was a quiet, private moment. We were in Min-jun's gallery, looking at the photos that started it all. The photos of me in the abandoned warehouse, my face raw with emotion, the photos that had made me famous. I looked at him, and he looked at me. "I love you, Yuna," he said, his voice a whisper. "I fell for you the moment you fell on that stage. You are my greatest inspiration. You are my muse. You are my love." I hugged him, and the tears came. "I love you too, Min-jun," I said, my voice a whisper. "You saved me. You gave me my life back. You gave me a reason to fight. You gave me everything." We were no longer the architect and the artist. We were not the failure and the genius. We were just Yuna and Min-jun. And our story, which began in humiliation, had ended in love. Our story was not just about revenge. It was about finding your truth, your passion, and your love. And in the end, that was all that mattered. Thank you for listening to our story. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe to the channel for a new episode every day. We'll be waiting for you. See you in the next story.